So, hello everyone. Thank you, Sami and Gregoire, for an amazing organization once again. And always good to be back in Paris, which is the epicenter of all things Starknet. So, I want to tell you a little bit, I want to start off by sharing with you a little bit some of the things that are on my mind or on our collective mind. These are some of the things that I'm working on or thinking about and would like to see advanced in the next year till we meet again here in this place. Well, probably it's going to be a bigger venue next time. So for a very long time, I've been using this quote, which is a beautiful quote. It says that integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And it really captures the power of what we're trying to achieve. And I often give this story of the empty pot about an emperor of China that has no children and needs to select his heir. And the way he does it is he poses a challenge. All children are supposed to receive a seed from the emperor, grow something, and the child with the most beautiful flower will be elected as the heir to the throne. And the end of the story is that only one child comes with an empty pot, and he is the one selected because, unbeknownst to everyone, the seeds were all barren. And this is the only child that operated with integrity. So integrity means doing the right thing when no one is watching. And I've been talking about it in all of my talks. What we do is prove integrity and assert integrity. Time and again, I've been using this thing because the technology we've developed and productized is one that asserts integrity, that shows you that the right thing is being done, even when no one is watching. And Starknet was really founded to deliver integrity of computation through math. Now, when you talk about a computation, defining integrity is rather simple because it has a clear mathematical definition of what right and wrong mean. So if you go from state A to state B using some auxiliary data, that is operating with integrity. And if it is not the case that you went from state A to state B using the data you claimed you have, then you have not operated with integrity. So there is even some deterministic process that, given the program and all of the data, can decide whether you operated with integrity or not. And what our technology does is it basically allows a verifier to check this integrity very quickly. So integrity for computation is very simple to define. It has a mathematical definition. But now, when we get to Starknet, which is already sort of a blockchain of its own and a decentralized ecosystem, defining what integrity means, meaning what is the right thing that needs to be done, already becomes more complicated and has more aspects to it. And if I had to summarize what I'm working on and concerned about and would like to advance, it is about understanding what is the right thing for Starknet, and then how do we get there? How do we achieve integrity for Starknet? How do we make sure that Starknet as a layer 2 is doing the right thing? And then it starts with a question of what is the right thing that needs to be done. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And to see what is the right thing, we have to first understand what is Starknet supposed to be and what is it supposed to do. So social functions are things that humans have the capacity for creating or consenting on and have been doing so for millennia. So what are social functions? These are databases, registries, and protocols that carry immense value, but this value is pegged on there being broad social consensus about their integrity. So I'll give you examples of social functions. Money is a social function. Its value depends on the fact that there is broad social consensus about the integrity, that money is doing the right thing even when you're not watching, that notes aren't being printed out of thin air, that well, unless it's quantitative easing or something like that, but generally speaking, it should have integrity. And the right thing means all sorts of things about money. If you own it, then it can't be taken away from you. Land registries are social functions. Governance protocols are social functions. And if you go back in time, human societies forever have been able to create infrastructure or ways and means for creating social functions and maintaining them, consenting and agreeing about what is the right thing, and everyone knowing that the right thing is being done. So I think in early days, you probably went to the elders of the tribe, and they, you sorted things out with them, and they were the source of authority. And today, a lot of times, the source of authority or the way we consent is either through national, municipal, multinational organizations, or more recently through large corporations, at least when we're dealing with money or private data. So social functions are really important. And blockchains are special cases of a definition that Ilya from our team came up with, which I really like, an integrity web. Just like we have the World Wide Web, we can think of webs of integrity, whose purpose is to create integrity. And the way these integrity webs, so think of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Starknet, they're all examples of this thing, but there could be many, many more. What distinguishes them and makes them different as an infrastructure for social function is that they rely on protocols that are open to all. There's a very low barrier for adding your node and participating in this protocol. They're peer-to-peer, they use computers, and what they do, by and large, is distribute value to the operators through the protocol and somehow tie the value being distributed to the integrity of the system. So if you think about Bitcoin mining and transaction fees and Ethereum and so on, there's a distribution of value through the network to the operators, and this somehow incentivizes them to operate in a way that maintains integrity. So it's a totally new framework for implementing social functions, but it's all about social functions. It's all about things that are of immense value to humans. And the problem with blockchains today, with these integrity webs, is that there's a tension between the broadness, how broad or decentralized can we make the network, and how much scale can we offer. Because if we want a very low barrier of entry and we want people with their laptops to contribute and participate in this very broad integrity web, then we need to limit the scale of the computation and storage and things like that. And that's the problem. So we can't reach the scale that the demand is for, and that's why we have congested systems and high prices. So what is Starknet? It's an integrity web. It's yet another one of these marvelous protocols that operates by peer-to-peer open protocols that somehow distribute value among operators and tie it to the integrity of the system. And it is one in which you can resolve the tension between the broadness, allowing everyone to be verifiers and operators operating very lean computers, but you can have arbitrarily large scale because you can invite even the most powerful and seemingly untrusted entities to offer capacity to the network because you have the integrity for computation offered by Starks that then puts them in check. And this will allow, or this does allow already, now after version 12 and more will come on, this allows to resolve the tension and have a very broad base of operators and validators and nodes that nevertheless can assert integrity over a vast amount of computation and a vast amount of social functions. And if we do this, we get this very good cycle where you can have more social functions and more capacity for them, and then more people would want to join the system and see value in it, and then you get more integrity because you have a broader base and things are more transparent and more involved. And this is something that we're already hopefully starting to see. Now, the next thing is, if this is the definition, then what about core values and how do we sort of think about them. So all of this is important to say. It's a work in progress. I've been talking a lot with in our team with Tom, Manor, and Ilya, and many others. And definitely we want to expand this process of talking to others. So this is just work in progress and initial thoughts. But, well, one thing, perhaps the most important and the biggest challenge is how do we maintain decentralization or lasting broadness? Because any system that carries value, there'll be some entities that would like to increase their control over it. And this is a very big challenge. I think all blockchains face it. Another one that most blockchain embrace, but it's also important for us, is of course neutrality and minimizing the kinds of like colors or shades that are imposed or canonized by the network. And a third one that is you won't have lasting broadness without empowerment of individuals, because at the end the only way to create lasting broadness somehow is to make sure that individuals are empowered. This is the same with democracies. If you don't have things like free press and empowered individuals, then by and large the strong entities will over time corrode integrity. So we need to have the same thing. Governance is already operating very nicely with a lot of discussions and improvements led by the governance committee under the foundation, which is a community committee. But we need to, well, at some point we need to face and think about all kinds of trade-offs when we set up more governance or think about it as it should be shaped for the future. So there's of course the trade-off that we're all aware of, which is you can move much faster if you move alone, if there's a single party that is deciding on many of the things. And we're certainly now on the technical front closer to that situation. But we also know that if you want to go far, you have to go together. And the question of what is the right way to move from fast and alone to far and together is something that's on our collective minds. We have to acknowledge that there are many different agents in the system, and they have different interests. So how do we bring them all to the table? Of course, there are the operators, the nodes, there are the developers, there are the users. And one last aspect, which is very important, is, society. I mean, think of all those who are currently not inside Starknet, but we want to offer services to them. They're also important to think about. Another question is delegated governance versus direct governance. What is the right mix of those? There are trade-offs and pros and cons to both of them. And then, do we want to move very fast, or do we want, and then you're very adaptive, or do we want to move very slowly and be very stable, but then you don't have change? So like Bitcoin is probably the most extreme in its stability, but it doesn't adapt very much. Then the question is, how do we set up mechanisms that give us the right balance? Now, ultimately, whatever thoughts we have about these things need to find their way into things like constitution, checks and balances, institutions and protocols that in the end will govern and lead the evolution of Starknet. So there's a lot to be done here, but we can't leave it at the state of just general principles. It needs to be then enshrined in some procedures and institutions. Finally, there's all the things that are related to the token. And here again, some of the things that are probably important are transparency, that as much of the economic activity and things that are going on, the debates, the mechanisms, they are transparent and inside the protocol, as opposed to being in some side channels or some closed and dark rooms where no one sees. We definitely want to make things long-term viable in both things like whatever minting and burning schedules there are and fee mechanisms. We have to think about not just the current holders of or the folks that are in the system, but how do we how do we make sure that funds and value is also going towards long-term development. And this is something I spoke about, or we spoke about and wrote about in the blog series that talks about the introduction of the token and the foundation. It's a very important theme there. For instance, part of fees collected on the network are going to be going to developers in a programmatic way. Economic efficiency means, striving in various ways to make sure that, MEV is a very stark example of economic inefficiency in the meaning that a lot of value is flowing from users to entities that in a way that is not necessarily economic efficient. But there are many other economic efficiencies and inefficiencies we have to think about. And of course, you want things to be simple, battle tested, and so on. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what's on my mind, and probably, if you have thoughts on these, want to be involved, please come to me, to the others in the Starknet team. We'll be reaching out a lot and, discussing things with the community on these things. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what I'm working on. How much time do I have left? Okay, I heard 20 minutes. No, I'm not exactly sure. The clock here says 10:06, and I don't know when I started. That's the problem, I guess. Only 2-3 hours. There's this saying that if you want me to talk for 2-3 hours, I can start now. If you want me to talk for 30 minutes, I need 2 days. If you want me to talk for 10 minutes or for 2 minutes, then I need to prepare a month. So I'll talk for I'll just briefly, I'll talk for 3 more minutes. I don't know how much time I'm supposed to have, so I'll talk for 3 more minutes. I'm assuming that some of you have been at ETHCC, so I just want to dive slightly deeper into 2 aspects of things that I said there. So ecosystem is key, and Starknet CC is the prime example of where we can see the community thriving, and you'll hear so many interesting talks and projects and announcements of the teams deploying stuff. Very exciting. I pointed out there that if you go to the developer report of Electric Capital, you'll see that most projects have been losing developers according to Electric Capital. The first one, and also the largest one, that's been increasing its developers is Starknet. And then one thing I didn't share there, but in a more local and friendly thing, so Omal from our developer advocate team has done some very interesting data analysis about us versus other layer 2s. You can reach out to him and discuss it with him. I know that he also wants to expand this and get a deeper understanding. But if you look at the proportion of developers who are committed and do a lot of commits among at least the 3 blockchains that he managed to get information for, you'll see that Starknet has been drastically increasing in its share of the pie. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out here. But you probably know this if you're here. The other thing I want to mention about the TPS Quantum Leap is that a lot of things have improved. You probably noticed this if you're using or developing Starknet. But one thing I also want to point out, and you can talk to the Cairo OGs around here and learn more about this and utilize it in your applications. We actually now measure, if you go to multi-calls, meaning one call that has inside it a lot of calls to contracts, we actually reach already triple digit, over 400 transactions per second inside a multi-call. So please make use of this. And this is, again, something that is unseen on any other layer 2, and probably on most layer 1s either, even those boasting very high throughput. So I will jump to the end and ask, just to summarize, even though we're seeing a lot of excitement and increase among the developer community, which is great, and thanks to you all, the question still remains, are we going to reach escape velocity, meaning will we reach the goal of being major infrastructure for social functions? Will people, in Argentina that don't trust the government for the social function of money be using Starknet? Will they have trust in it? Will they trust its integrity? The question is still out there. It will probably take us a few years to find out if we're doing things right. But at least on my mind, it's a lot, I'm thinking a lot, how do we make sure that we go out in a way that not just the tech is great, but also the overall structure of decentralization is one that will be lasting for a very long time. If I had to summarize, one good way to do it is to take Paris and clone it and do whatever amazing things are going on here, because Paris is the epicenter of Starknet, and just clone it to other places in the world. So one place will be next is the Starknet Summit right after the Stanford Blockchain Week in San Francisco. If you're going to be in the area, please consider attending. Please spread the word. The QR code for it is here. And with that, let's go and enforce some integrity. A lot of exciting talks. Thank you very much.